The house stood quiet. Too quiet. It was an ordinary home. 4 walls, a roof, a door that creaked slightly in the wind. To anyone walking by, it was just another house, blending into the neighborhood like a forgotten memory. But inside, the air carried something different. A whisper, a presence. Something was about to change. This house had seen everything. Laughter, tears, silent struggles, whispered prayers in the dead of night. It had watched over a woman who had long forgotten what it meant to be powerful. A woman who had spent years dimming her own light, shrinking herself to fit into a world that never seemed to make space for her. But now a shift was coming, a transformation. The universe was stirring. The walls knew it. The air crackled with the electricity of fate. Because soon as she would rise, she would become the woman she was always meant to be, an alpha woman. The house had watched her for years. It had seen her wake up before the sun, moving through her morning like a ghost. She would press her coffee cup to her lips, staring out the window, eyes hollow with exhaustion. She had dreams once, big ones, dreams of traveling, of starting a business, of becoming someone who commanded her own destiny. But life had a way of stealing those dreams, little by little, like sand slipping through fingers. The house had seen the way she tried, how she stretched herself thin, pouring into others while leaving herself empty. It had heard the arguments, the ones where she whispered, "I can't keep doing this," while tears traced silent paths down her cheeks. It had felt her loneliness, the weight of her sacrifices pressing into the walls like a burden too heavy to bear. And yet she stayed. In this house, in this life, in this version of herself that was so much smaller than the woman she was meant to be. But then something happened. It started with a whisper, a sound so faint, so gentle. She thought it was just the wind, but the house knew better. It was the beginning of everything, a message in the stillness. At first, she ignored it, the soft voice that seemed to hum through the walls, curling around her like a secret waiting to be unraveled. She dismissed it as exhaustion, as stress, as the remnants of an overactive imagination. But then the dream started. Vivid, powerful dreams of a woman, fierce, unshaken, walking with the kind of confidence that turned heads and silenced doubt. The woman in the dream looked familiar, too familiar, because it was her, or at least the version of her that had been buried under years of self-doubt, of putting everyone else first, of believing she was enough. She woke up with her heart pounding, and for the first time in years, she felt something stir inside her. Not fear, not doubt, but power. Something was calling her. Something was waiting for her to rise. And the house knew it, because this house, this place where she had once felt trapped, wasn't just walls and floors. It was a witness, a keeper of stories, a silent partner in the transformation she was about to undergo. And it had one message for her. Wake up. The shift begins. She started to notice things. The way the sun hit the windows just right in the mornings, bathing the room in golden light. The way the floor creaked under her step, as if the house itself was urging her forward. The way the air seemed thicker, charged, alive. She wasn't imagining it. Something had changed. And then the voice came again. Stronger this time. More insistent. You are not meant to be small. The word sent shivers down her spine. She turned, expecting to see someone behind her. But there was no one, just a reflection in the mirror. And for the first time in a long time, she really looked at herself. Not at the tired eyes, not at the lines worry had carved into her face, but at the fire, the spark, the thing she had spent so many years ignoring. She reached out, touching the glass with trembling fingers. Wake up! The words echoed through her mind, through the walls, through her very soul. And she knew this wasn't just a house. This was the place where she would be reborn, the place where she would become who she was always meant to be, an alpha woman. The air felt different. She couldn't explain it, but something inside her had shifted. The house had whispered to her, the voice threading through the walls, settling deep into her soul. She had ignored it at first, afraid to believe in something she couldn't see. But now she couldn't deny it. Something inside her was waking up. The woman she had buried, the woman she had forgotten, was stirring, and she was ready to rise. The signs. At first, it was small things. She started standing taller, rolling her shoulders back like she carried a new kind of strength. She started saying no to the people who drained her, to the expectations that suffocated her, to the fear that had kept her small for so long. And the house responded. The lights flickered when she spoke her truth. The floorboards groaned as if shifting beneath her newfound confidence. The wind howled through the windows, whispering secrets she was finally ready to hear. She wasn't imagining it. She was changing, becoming, and the house was bearing witness. The mirror knows. One night, she stood before the mirror again. But this time, she didn't look away. She traced the sharpness of her cheekbones, the power in her eyes, the fire burning beneath her skin. She wasn't the same woman who had moved through life with hunched shoulders and hesitant steps. She was rising, and then, just as she was about to turn away, she saw it, a shadow in the reflection, not something dark, not something frightening, but something waiting, a presence, a future. She blinked, her heart racing, and then she heard it again. The voice, stronger this time. You are the alpha. Step into your power. The words vibrated through her bones. And for the first time, she truly understood. This wasn't just about her. This was about every woman who had ever been told to shrink. Every woman who had been conditioned to stay quiet, stay small, stay afraid. This was about breaking every chain, every expectation, every lie. And she was ready. The alpha woman was awakening. The test. But no transformation comes without a test. The next morning, the storm rolled in, not just in the sky, but in her life. People who had once controlled her, belittled her, made her question her worth. They came back. Old fears crept in, whispering in the corners of her mind, telling her she wasn't ready, that she wasn't strong enough, that she should stay where she was, safe and unseen. And for a moment, she almost believed them. Almost. But then, the house shook. A sudden gust of wind slammed against the windows. The walls groaned, as if the house itself was rejecting the lies. She took a breath, and then she spoke, louder than she ever had before. No. The storm outside raged. But inside, she was calm, because she knew she had passed the test. She had stepped into her power. The house had called to her, had whispered to her, had prepared her, and now she was ready to lead, to conquer, to rise, to become the alpha woman she was always meant to be. The storm had passed. Outside, the world looked the same streets, the same sky, the same familiar echoes of life continuing as if nothing had changed. But inside the house, inside her, everything was different. The old version of her, the woman who doubted, who apologized for taking up space, who settled for less than she deserved, was gone. In her place stood someone new, someone unstoppable, someone who had finally stepped into her true power. The last whisper. That morning, the house was quiet. Not the eerie, heavy silence of before, but a peaceful quiet, a knowing quiet. She could feel it. The house had done its job. It had watched over her. It had whispered its truths. It had woken her up. And now, it was time for her to move forward. No more hiding. No more waiting. No more living in the shadows of who she was meant to be. She placed her hand against the wall. A silent thank you. The house hummed in response. A final whisper. Go. Lead. Become. And she smiled, because she already had. Becoming the alpha. The world had always tried to tame her, to tell her what she could and couldn't do, to make her believe that strength in a woman was something to be feared, something to be silenced. But now she knew the truth. She was not too much. She was not too loud, too bold, too difficult. She was exactly as she was meant to be, a leader, a force, an alpha woman. And from this moment forward, she would live like one. She would take up space. She would build the life she deserved. She would walk into every room with her head high, her shoulders back, her voice steady, because the world no longer decided her worth. She did. The final step. She turned toward the door. The same door she had once hesitated to walk through. The same door that had once felt like a barrier between her and the life she wanted. But now, it was simply an opening, a path forward. She reached for the handle, pausing for just a second, and then, without fear, without hesitation, she stepped through and never looked back. Conclusion, the message for you. This isn't just a story. This is about you. The house you are living in, the life you are living, is trying to tell you something. It's time to wake up. It's time to stop settling, waiting, doubting. It's time to rise. Because you, yes, you are meant for more. You are meant to lead. You are meant to become. The whispers have already started. The question is, will you listen?